In this week's raid, we are joined by Mac from the Goblin Goldcast, and this is what he had to say.
Wanna roll with us with our huts and ruts and wreaking out havoc all around the bus, and wanna come with us if you want to rush and breaking through these mobs and kicking up dust. You can come along with your PvP gear, it don't matter cause it's real easy here. All you gotta do is nuke some shit, nuke some shit, nuke some shit.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Lion's Pride Tavern podcast number 42. Tonight we talk about our weekend raid, and half of the Goblin Goldcast raided with us.
Yay.
I think it was the Lynn half. And tonight's Dancing with the Bosses is High Botanist. But before all that, let's start off with introductions. I'm your host, Fafford. I play a Dwarven Beastmaster Hunter in the awesome game World of Warcraft. Next up is JobUi.
Hi, I'm JobUi. I play a Worgen Frost Mage.
And Lorelei.
Hi, it's Lorelei, your Night Elf Fury Warrior.
Epistle.
I play a Draenei Protection Paladin, and if I sound like I'm clearing chocolate out of my teeth, I'm just enjoying my Father's Day treats.
Oh,
Ooh.
and speaking of Father's Day, Tapachino won't be with us tonight.
Uh-oh.
I think she's still with her in-laws or something like that, so she couldn't join us. But fantastic news, and we're going to let JobUi just start it right off with how we did on our raid.
On Friday night, after many attempts and many tweaks to our strategy, we downed Gul'dan on a heroic for the first time.
Yay.
Curse splat went the boss.
Yeah, we took him down. You know, and the last poll that we did, I think people were really getting all the mechanics much cleaner, and most of the raid group was alive and well when the boss dropped at the end. We had very few fatalities on that last poll, and that went great. Then we came back on. Well, we didn't come back on Saturday night. On our Saturday night raid, we decided to go try out the Trial of Valor, and we did that on heroic and downed all 3 bosses and got that achievement as well.
Yay!
Hey, that
Screens
one was a
full.
little rough, to say the least.
A little, but we still got those screenfuls of achievement.
Yeah, it was a little rough. You know, we weren't very practiced at it. We hadn't done that one in a really, really long time, and it took us a number of tries to get down, but we did it. It got done.
You know, one of our tanks, actually, not saying who, had actually never done it on LFR like I had.
Right?
What?
Yeah,
Now you
Durag-
tell us?
Durag has never...
I'm
And
just
putting
saying,
the blind man in the seat and driving down the
yeah,
interstate.
I told him, it's easy, just stand over there and move when DBM tells you to. And that was, it got us going.
Well, we, as a group, we'd never been... Did we actually get the second boss down? Had we ever
Yeah.
got him down?
Maybe
Yeah.
once
On
or twice.
normal. Yeah, on
Yeah, on
normal,
normal.
we had done Guarm on normal. So we had gotten through Odin and Guarm in the past, but we had, I don't even know if we ever even pulled Helya
We didn't,
in the past.
No, I don't think so, no.
Yeah.
No, that was my first time seeing it.
Yeah, I had seen it in LFR, but I had never done it on normal or heroic for Helya at least.
I do have to say, though, as a raid leader, you know, when I'm prepared and I know the boss and I've seen the videos and I can kind of talk intelligently, I had absolutely nothing to say about the last boss to Helya. But we did have several people step up. Hold on.
We did.
Is the laundry ready again?
Yes.
That's awesome.
She's
I love
always
that.
doing laundry during my podcast.
Times it just for this moment.
You know, I have to say, I intentionally did not. I knew we were doing it the next night, and I intentionally did not look up anything. I was like, I'm just pew-pewing DPSing tonight. I'm not gonna call anything. I'm not gonna try and explain the fight at all or anything like that. I'm just here to have fun and pew-pew DPS. That was my plan.
Well, that's what I was going to say is that because I didn't step up as raid leader, several people did, and it was actually very interesting because they all did it at the same time to begin with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody wanted to tell their story and how to do stuff. And eventually we worked it out. They got all together. It was very interesting to see. I mean, to see these people that were all like just throwing in their bits of information, we'd pull and wipe, and then their bits of information we'd pull and we'd wipe to get it all together. So at the end, it was actually pretty clean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it wasn't too bad at the end.
It was just knowing which ads to go after and
Yep.
which
Priorities.
which ones. Yeah, the priorities. The priorities were not right in the beginning, but then as soon as you know which of the big ads to get down first and then which way to go, then it works out.
Yeah, the
Well-
other thing I think that was taking us out too was those purple things that people weren't soaking, and then Durag pointed out, he's like, we need to soak those purple things because that's what killed us, and we did that.
But that
Yeah.
was after we realized the first set of purples we were supposed to avoid because they were killing us. So it's one of those, some purples run away from, some purples run into. And that's always one of those little tricks Blizz likes to throw in to keep it fresh.
Yep.
Oh, yeah. Well, the first two bosses, really we didn't do too bad on. I don't think anyway. For being the first time we've gone to it, for one in heroic, and for two, for going to it in, I'm going to say 4 months.
It's
Yeah.
been a while.
Yeah. So I was impressed with the group, and then to turn around and still get Helya down on heroic, that's an accomplishment.
Yeah, because we'd done it on normal. We'd never done it on heroic. And though our gear level was higher, there were lots of raid wipe mechanics, right? If we didn't do things right, we could have wiped out. So it's probably why we had several attempts just to problem solve and sort those things out.
Well, so as I said in my introduction, we had the Lynn part of the Goblin Goldcast with us for the weekend, and that was Mac. Great guy, had a lot of fun. He spent a lot of time sleeping. I told him next time bring his blankie and his pillow. Spent a lot of time on the floor, but I was impressed with him because, a lot of people when they join somebody and it's a well-oiled machine they're joining, they feel very out of the loop. And, and we're not one of those types of groups that do that to people deliberately, but he fit right in because about, I don't know, it was probably our third or fourth wipe on Gul'dan. He goes, okay, so let me get this straight. What am I supposed to do? And so we explained it to him, and he made it all the way through the fight on the last pull that we got when we got Gul'dan down. He was
Did
alive.
he survive that?
Yeah.
Yes,
Mhm.
he did.
Yep.
Oh, I didn't.
So,
I
I
didn't
was
even know. I
impressed.
know. I think we only lost like 1 or 2 people on that last pull.
Yep.
I think, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a very, very clean pull, especially comparatively, obviously, because all
Yeah.
the rest were wipes, But
Well, but I mean, it was, I think we went into it thinking, all right, we've got the whole raid to do this, and we basically did it in the whole
Yeah.
raid time.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it
'Cause
was going to be
it
our
was-
last pull of the evening. Is when we got it down, actually.
Yeah, because there was like 10 minutes left, and I went, all right, we got time for one more pull. This will be the last pull of the evening, and we're going to get it down. And we did.
And so we did. Yeah.
So yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was a big high for me getting Gul'dan down in heroic and having half the Goblin Goldcast team with us. Now I told Mac we took a picture of all of us laying down, and he was the only one left alive. I told him he needs to play that up with Dex. So I don't know if he will because he basically said Dex wouldn't believe him anyway. But, Mac, thanks for coming. I know you listen to our podcast. We really appreciate it. You're welcome back at any time, provided we have a spot, because you saw we were right at 30 both nights, I think. We had everybody we needed.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
a big
we-
thank you to Mrs. Mack who showed up on Saturday and went with us too.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I forgot about that. Yeah, she was with
Well,
us for TOV.
and also to underline, it was really terrific to have that achievement ahead of the curve because I don't know, I think we talked about this as a group. I don't know that we've ever collectively sort of achieved that and done a heroic before the next update to the next instance comes out, the next raid.
No, that
We
was our first
Yep.
time, I think. Yeah.
we were working on it when Nighthold came out, and I don't think we're quite. I think we're probably 3 bosses shy of finishing it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even in previous expansions and stuff, when we've gotten through normal and we've started working on heroic, but not actually finished heroic. And I know that individuals within the raid group have gone out and gotten their ahead of the curve achievements with other groups or pugging it out and whatnot. But as a group, that was our first time getting it, which I thought was pretty awesome.
I know like several achievements popped up, like just finishing it in heroics and then ahead of the curve. And there was like 3 achievements that popped for me.
Yeah, and then we also, because we did the Helya one, we also got that outfit. Everybody got a new outfit.
Yeah. Yep, and got the achievement there too.
I don't necessarily like my outfit transmog, but I got an outfit transmog.
I was gonna ask you.
You know, I still haven't found it actually. I knew it was in my bag. I clicked on it, and I haven't figured out how to transmog into it and see what it even looks like yet.
Yeah, mine's kind of it's got like this. I don't know, like it's got a horned helmet, and it's got kind of stormwindy colors to a certain extent. It's like blue and gold colors, and I don't know. It's not my personal taste. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not what I'm going for.
Well, does it match? Does it match any mounts you have?
Oh, sure, it'll match a mount that I have. I'm sure.
Because that's what matters, right?
Well, to a certain extent, yeah. In fact, that's actually been kind of bugging me. I've been trying to figure out what mount I should wear because I recently transmogged to a somewhat Gul'dan look-alike kind of outfit, and I haven't decided what mount is appropriate for that. Because my frost mage discus, it doesn't exactly match that very well.
Take up tailoring and get a flying carpet.
I have that actually.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, so let's just talk just a little bit about the changes we made for Gul'dan. As progression, as we started, we went with our normal strategy, and Epistle, your friend was there again, which I'm at a loss for his Amma.
Amma Vera.
Yeah, Amma Vera. Okay, that's right. Great person, very, very helpful, and he kept whispering me saying, "Now you let me know if I'm overstepping my bounds." And I'm like,
yeah, he's
no,
pretty good that
dude,
way.
Just tell us.
Well, I like that he would sort of look and think and figure out one thing to improve and just name that one bit, as opposed to, here's a series of things. It's always good to, when you're learning something, to work on one focused thing at a time.
Jobui, just kind of walk us through our first attempt at Gul'dan. We did our normal and where we kind of failed, and then we can kind of talk about the change we made then and go from there.
Well, initially we started off the fight doing our normal routine, which went pretty well actually. On our first pull, we got him down to I think 23%, which wasn't really horrible. And the only thing that really went really bad in that particular pull was at the tail end of the fight when we start getting the flames on us. It's a debuff that after 3 seconds it starts dropping 4 pools of flame on the ground, and there was more than we were used to, and I think that was also not only attributed to the fact that it was heroic, but I don't think we had been on Gul'dan with 30 players in the past, so there was a lot more fire dropping everywhere, and people were running on top of each other, and it was bad. I think I got hit in that pull by like 4 people at the same time. Just after I heroed, I had stopped moving for a second to pop hero, and 4 people ran right on top of me, and then I just blew up and died. And I saw that happen to another number of other people, and that more or less wiped the raid. And that's pretty much where it went wrong in our first poll. From there, Emma had made some suggestions of positioning and some techniques to help with some of the mechanics that, we were taking a little too much damage from, and that sort of thing from our previous strategy, which didn't have as much specific positioning as he was suggesting. And so we made those changes, which took a little while for people to get used to the new positions that we were trying out, and to work with how those affected, what we needed to do. But we got it down, little by little, pull after pull. Because our next few pulls, I think we're only getting to like 50-60%, and didn't get real close until about 4 pulls in, I think.
Yeah, because so everybody who's listening needs to realize we do a 2-hour raid, and we spent the whole 2 hours wiping and wiping and wiping until the very end, with our last 10 minutes left of the raid, that we actually got Gul'dan down. And we did make, like I said, I think we made several adjustments to our strategy. Redoing the markers, I think, was the part that did it for me, and then just calling it out before stuff would happen, just prior to when it needed.
Yeah, I started doing that. I started trying to make sure I was calling out some of the things before they happened, just to try and give people warning, especially with some of the stuff like when people needed to spread out, because we were stacking in some spots. And one of the things I had noticed was, while we were stacking on these new positions, we were stacking too tight during some of the mechanics. And it was okay to stack for part of it, but when, for an example, the eyes would come out, people needed to spread out so that they weren't bunched up on top of each other and doubling up on the damage that they were getting, or quadrupling or more, just as the case was.
The other piece is you could not move close to the tanks, and it would potentially kill us. So when we were kind of running a little helter-skelter, that created a chaos that put us in a very vulnerable situation.
Right. Well, yeah, that did help a lot with you guys, didn't it?
Yeah, it did. It solved that problem when people running around. They didn't, you sort of knew there was a no-go front of the tank where, the dragon breath traditionally would be, and to stay away from that. I think that helped people to know, just don't go there.
And it didn't seem too bad when the normal eyes came out, but it was when that empowered one came out. Oh my gosh, that wiped a lot of people.
Yeah. When the empowered eye was hitting the group, and we were stacked, and it hit, and it just started melting the raid.
Yeah, because I think that was, for me anyway, as arranged, that was my single biggest mechanic that I thought we did very well the very last time, because someone would go, okay, stack up, and everybody, boom, right into stack, and then spread out. Right before the eyes came out, everybody would spread, even though it was on just normal eyes. Between the normal eyes and the empowered, it didn't make any difference. We spread out rather well. So,
yeah, I was trying to call that 10 seconds before the eyes were coming out, to give people like fair warning that they were coming, just so they had time to spread. And I noticed they were too. They would like spread, and sometimes people were running into the same spot, and then they'd realize that, and then they'd spread a little more, until when the eyes actually came out, we were nicely spread out and not stacking on top of each other to take extra damage.
Now, is that Lorelei, is that a strategy that you guys used, getting Gul'dan down for your group?
Yep. We start the fight with everybody stacked behind the boss, or everybody close together, so that the first 2 fell bonds that come out, you've got all kinds of people there, and you just run it a little bit out, and then you're done, and then you're ready for that ad to come out. And we also, I know Amavera had suggested this the weekend before, is making sure that you have your ranged stacked for those fell bonds, because I noticed a lot of people were really spreading out in the beginning, and they would get their fell bonds far apart from each other, and that made it harder for other people to run out to help them. So if you stay somewhat stacked, then you get shot into the back together. You can run together like we were doing on normal, and then you've got a small group of people that can get out there and help both people at the same time.
Yeah, that definitely helped because he rearranged all the markers, to the way his group normally does it, and he's a mythic raider, so I definitely was every time he whispered to me like, "No, you're doing just fine. Just go ahead and tell us what to do. We're fine with that."
Because we're
Yeah.
kind of in a time crunch. We want to get this done tonight.
Yeah, I was a little worried about the fire being dropped on the square side, but that didn't seem to be as much of a problem as fire on the other side being dropped. Just kind of helter skelter.
Yeah, I don't think people knew that when it hits you, it doesn't. You got like 3 or 4 seconds before it actually drops, so you can get out. And I don't think people were actually understanding that. And then it seemed like on the last one, it seemed to all come together because there was definitely places I didn't have a problem running around and finding an empty spot to stand on, unlike previous attempts where the whole floor was covered with fire. Because he did tell us, drop one and step just a little bit, and let another one drop on top of it before you move. And I think that really helped a lot. It was like a 2-step dance.
Yeah, and then you can overlap them too with the next person can just kind of run near the edge of the other one and overlap it. And then you don't have that big panicky spread.
Yeah.
But you have to be real careful about the people that are standing out there in the way. They've got to move out of the way when fire's coming.
Yeah, and I had a weak aura set up for that would notify me as soon as the debuff was initially put on me. It would make a really loud, obnoxious noise. And I noticed partway through the raid that wasn't working. I don't know if they changed the instance number because there's the Tomb of Sargeras coming out or something, because I had it set to load only when I was in that particular fight. And it wasn't working, so I fixed it. And then I got my warnings, and once I was getting my warnings super early, I was blinking all the way out and standing on the edge of the platform and trying to get it as far away from everybody else as possible. And that helped me personally a little bit. But at first it wasn't working right.
All right. Well, let's move on to Dancing with the Bosses. So this is our new series. We're going to be dancing with the boss. And this week's boss is going to be High Botanist. What we've been doing in the past is each one of us, from our own perspective, tank, melee, range, DPS, tells us what they do for this particular boss. So put your thinking caps on, High Botanist, and we'll go with ranged DPS first. Jobui?
All right, so on High Botanist, in the way we do it, we set up positions for various groups of ranged players that are spread out around the circle. Usually we have 3 positions that we have set up for our ranged. So I'm assigned one of those positions because I'm in one of those groups, and I hang out near my position. At the beginning of the fight, I often move a little closer to the boss because he's pulled from the side into the middle of the big circle. And so I like to try and get over to one of the sides kind of off position, just so I can get off those initial hits right after the tank pulls it, but then I quickly move back to where I'm supposed to be at my marker. And from there, I pretty much just keep an eye on the boss and just keep DPSing it as hard as I can, watching out for any of the events that are going to occur, because there's 3 different types of events that can happen. There's like a starburst that can, well, I guess is it just 2 events? The starburst and then the purple stuff? Is that just really the only 2, I think?
Well, also the replicating plants.
Right. Well, yeah, I guess there's, that would be the 3rd event. But there's basically a star collapse thing, which is these circles that slowly collapse in on a position. And with the 3 different ranged groups, and then we have the melee in the middle with the boss, of course. So, but if it collapses on my group, then I avoid those mechanics. If the purple starts expanding, I run away from the purple. And in that instance, I usually try and run away from the purple, kind of through the middle, or towards one of the other groups, rather than like off by myself, like far away from everybody else, because I want to stay in range of healers. And then I go back to my position once the mechanic is taken care of. And then every time I see the plants pop up, because every now and again somebody will get a debuff that roots them in place, and then when that debuff is released or dispelled, then 2 plants will spawn, and those plants will target 2 different players and start chasing them. Now, if I'm the target that's being chased, I get as far away from that plant as I can while still staying in range of it, and I try and slow it, and I try and freeze it in place with some of my frosty spells, and then I try and kill them as quickly as possible. If anybody else is being or if other people are being targeted and it's not me, I do the same thing where I try and freeze them in place, but I don't run away from my position, because if they touch me, or they touch those other players, then they will multiply, and that's not good. So try and kill those as quickly as I can, and just keep DPSing the boss whenever there aren't any plants up. Eventually the boss splits into 2, and the mechanics continue, and I'll keep attacking the plants and the bosses as necessary. And then when we split to the 3 bosses, then sometimes if I get a purple on myself, or I see another player that's in my group get like a purple debuff on them, I will stand with them, or if it's me, I will ask another player to stand with me, because if you have a player who has the purple and a player who doesn't have the purple stand together, then it doesn't do raid-wide damage. And if they stand by themselves, then they'll do raid-wide damage to everybody. So I either stand with somebody or have somebody stand with me if I see purple around my group. And then there are these green things, these little spiky green spores that come out, and I try and avoid those, because those will also do damage. There also is occasionally these balls that come up in different quadrants in the circle, and I DPS those down with the group as we prescribe. So we'll select one and blow that one up, and there's a small debuff that goes on players. So then I wait, and then I kill the second one, and then we leave the third one alone to blow up on its own. And other than that, I just basically keep attacking the bosses as much as I can, avoiding the mechanics and killing those plants whenever they spawn.
Fantastic. From a melee perspective, Lorelei?
Okay. This fight's actually very easy for melee. You really just stay on the boss the whole time. You avoid the collapsing orbs or balls or whatever they are. I like to run out if I'm not targeted. I will run out and help kill those plants to get them down as fast as possible, because they should be able to go down pretty quick. And then I'm back on the boss, and I just avoid the big purple thing on the ground, and everything else is flying around, and just stick on the boss as much as I can and do as much damage. And that's really all melee has to do, is just watch where you're standing and kill the bosses.
I'm thinking I might start switching over to melee, because so far, there's been a couple of bosses where that's all she said is it's pretty easy. You just stand there and hit the boss.
Star Augur, just stand there and hit the boss. Don't stand and stuff. And I really like it. Star Augur is probably my favorite fight, and then this one is my second favorite fight. And not just because it's easy, it's just because it just goes together very well. I mean, you don't have everything thrown at you at one time, but there's things you have to watch for. You have to move around, know where you're going, know where you need to be. And those are the kind of fights that I like.
Yeah. Well, and for range, it's a dance. It definitely is. Because, you're going between you shooting the plants to shooting the big gold balls to moving out of the way when the purple stuff hits the ground, and then the collapsing star. You're moving out of that way if it happens to be on you. If not, then you're golden, because then you can just sit there and and watch it happen to somebody else on the other side of the room.
Although I will say that with the plants, you should move out of position as a ranged to get in range of those plants on the other side of the room. If they're not in your range, get in range and do some damage on those plants.
Yeah, and
Don't
see,
just-
I always seem to be in the middle of the two, so I'm never usually out of range. So I've never had that problem, but I one time, because there was once I was in a completely different group, and I had to move forward in order to get to the plants. Yeah, you're right. So, Pistol, tank. What do you do and don't do?
Yeah, I'd agree with Lorelei that this is a very enjoyable fight, and it's the mobility really helps. So it's not just sort of a stand and hit the boss fight, which really isn't exciting. From a tank perspective, there's really just a few key things. One is there's a tank swap mechanic called recursive strikes, and we have to taunt back and forth, or one of us dies. The other is we have to really be careful where we position him, because by I think it's third phase, the boss can self-heal. There's a little spot he puts in the ground, so we've got to move him out of that. But then it gets more interesting with all these other mechanics we've already talked about. As tanks, we have to anticipate where the damage is going to be, and we have to start moving ahead of time. So before those, the circle that comes inward, the balls that come inward appear, we got to be moving first. I got to see the purple. I'm always looking around when the countdown timer is coming to see where it's starting, to make sure we're moving just far enough so that the melee can still hit and be safe, but not so far that we're wasting a lot of time just with excessive movement. So it's something that with a little bit of practice you can get really good at fine-tuning, minimizing your motion, maximizing DPS, not making it too hard on the melee. Of course, you have to come running around with you, but also to be anticipating moving so you avoid some of the damage, so it doesn't get any worse. So that, plus you pick up a couple more bosses, like when he splits or comes into those sort of 3 images total, and swapping. You got to make sure you're not taunting the wrong one, and a few things like that. But it's fairly basic in some senses, but especially on the heroic we just did, it's so quick that you really have to be on your toes and on your A game to be able to pull all those little subtle moves off all at once.
Awesome. Yeah. And it's too bad we don't have a healing perspective, but I pretty much say Tap's going to tell you that it's just like, because the healers are typically out with the ranged, so they have the same issues they got to deal with the ranged, except, they don't have a lot of move and heal spells, just their trank and run. But I would say
they are responsible for dispelling that debuff that roots the players that creates the plants. And the healers take care of that.
Yeah, so they have a little bit of responsibility there. Plus, on top of it all, you got to keep the tanks alive and the DPS alive, yourself alive.
And if the plants chase you, run away!
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad I never had to deal with that this whole time through on High Botanist. I've never had a plant target me, well, unless we're just about to wipe. So that's never been a concern for me.
Yeah, because there's a lot of them when that happens.
I'm just really glad that as a mage, I have Blink. In fact, I have, Shimmer, so I can blink twice. Because if the plants are chasing me and I don't notice it right at first, and they're nearby, I can blink quite a distance away from them and usually get away. I feel bad for the players that have very little movement help, because I see them struggling to run away from those things.
Well, and then one of the other things that in third phase happens is those little green balls come out, and as a hunter, I know I can turtle myself and run around and hit those, and it won't do any damage to me, and I can take those out. So that helps out the group, especially in the group as in my group in my area. But I have been known to be clear on the other side of the room as the purple goes off, and then go, oh look, there's a whole bunch of green balls here. Let's turtle these. I have done that. So I do know that throughout this entire, since we're going into our new raid next week, I do know that through this entire raid, I found there are just and this is the first time I think I've felt this way. There are just certain times during the raid. You guys can chime in whenever you want, but there are certain times I think when you don't DPS that you concentrate solely on whatever mechanic that is. Stop DPSing. You have to do your little run, your little dance, get around the orbs, get around the rings, whatever it may be. Because if you're still concentrating too much on DPSing, you'll go down. Am I correct in that? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
if you don't do the mechanics, you're going to wipe the raid, if not kill yourself, and then you're not doing any DPS. So, I mean, you have to be willing to stop and move around.
Yeah,
Well, I
absolutely.
meant not just, I meant as in previous raids, I don't recall having to do that as often. This particular raid group of raids in this expansion, I found that you have to do that a lot more often than you don't do it.
Well, let's see. What was the... Gosh, I was having a hard time thinking about it. DPS had to do a lot of running around. There were just times when you could not stand there. And people that would wipe would be the ones that were not willing to stop DPSing and get out of the way.
You're talking about Siege Crafter Black Fuse.
Black Fuse,
yes, Black Fuse.
That one.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I know what you're talking about now.
And Melee had to move, and if you didn't move out of all that, then you just wiped the raid.
Yeah, because
Yep.
that had the little missiles that came down,
Yeah.
and then they would blow up, and oh yeah, those were.
And
and
I
you-
remember, and I don't know who, I don't know if it was Epistle made that comment to me or not, but there was another fight earlier where you were on a big round platform, and people had to be off on the sides ranged and had to step into something that showed up on the ground. And I know I spent half my time jumping to the back of the room to land on these spots because people wouldn't stop doing what they do to do it. And
Huh.
I know somebody said, I can't believe it, you are jumping all over the room. And because somebody has to do it. And you know what?
Yeah.
I don't care if I'm at the top of the meter. If the mechanics are being done right, I'll do it. I'll end up 6 or 7 if the mechanic can get done right.
And you know
Yeah.
what? I was doing that, and I was still on my mage. That was before Epistle was really
I thought it
a
was
tank.
you that kept with somebody I knew that we were raiding with right now.
Yeah, because
would
we were
whisper and
talking
say,
about
I can't
that.
believe
Yeah,
you keep jumping all over the floor.
Yeah, there's
yeah,
also,
you were covering everything.
I
Buzz,
also
was
recall
everywhere, literally.
the Garrosh Hellscream fight where we had to lure the tanks around the room. You know, where the tank would target you and you had to kind of move it around and drive it over the mines. That was another instance where I often had to stop DPSing.
Oh, okay, but there's always the mechanic, that one mechanic that 1 or 2 people will do. I mean, that's how I met you, JobUI, is you and I always played the hot potato.
Right.
You know.
Oh, yeah,
I mean,
the hot potato.
the hot potato, because it was like nobody else knew how to do it, and if we had somebody else do it, they screwed it up, and if you screwed it up, you'd wipe the raid, you know, or
Yeah.
get close to it anyway.
And you and I would just stand at the back of the room and pass it back and forth and pass it back and forth.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, did it affect our DPS? Absolutely. We weren't getting the numbers everybody else was doing, but if it didn't get done, I mean, if one of us went down, it pretty much was like, oh, well, there's nobody else to do it, and nobody else is coming back to do it. But I'm talking, with this particular raid set, it seems like there was more for everybody to
Yeah.
stop doing what they were doing rather than just a couple of people.
Yeah, not the
Sure.
specialists trying to do that extra mechanic. So you're talking about Margok, right?
Yes.
Imperator, Margok. Yeah, yeah. And I do like that it's now everybody having to do it as opposed to just 1 or 2 people and everyone else can be lazy.
Yeah, because I remember that's how my wife and I actually got started in the raid group, is because we learned to do something, and every time we came in, well, we were the ones running around. That was the one where they had put the green goo on the ground. You had to run around with a flamethrower, and nobody else wanted to do it. And so we were always volunteering for it. Well, because we always volunteered for it, we always did the on the one boss previous to that. You had to step in and step out of the group up near because you'd get a buff
Oh yeah,
on you.
the mountain guy.
Yeah, the big yeah. Butcher. Yeah, she's just yelling down to me. It was Butcher.
Oh, I was
That's
thinking of
how
the one after
her and
that.
I got started, because she literally is upstairs above me, and we could yell at each other. Okay, you step out. Okay, I'm going in. You go out. I'm coming. And we could yell at each other without interfering with the group's communication. And we got really good at it. So every time we went, everybody's like, "Yep, they got that. They got that mechanic." That's not so much anymore. It's not just a couple of people that know the mechanics, and I like that.
Me too.
Yeah, they definitely have spread out the responsibility with the newer raids, which I like that too, because it's not it's kind of nice at first when you can kind of be the hero of a mechanic and take care of it, but after a little while it loses its luster,
Yes,
and you're
it
like,
does.
all right, yeah, I'm kind of tired of doing this. Why doesn't somebody else do this time so I can just have fun and pew 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 the boss? And
Mhm.
and so it's nice that they spread that out and there's a little bit less of that, because sometimes it's nice to just you know when you get the thing, but sometimes you don't get the thing and you can just stand there like, and I have to admit, like sometimes when I see other people get the mechanic and I don't get the mechanic, I'm like, hey, that's great. Like a particular instance would be the Tichondrius fight. Like if
Yeah.
I don't get the plague, I'm so happy I didn't get the plague. Like there was some fights where I just didn't get the plague the whole fight, and I'm like, haha, I didn't get the plague.
I have to admit, I was the same way. It's like, wow, I went this whole fight, didn't get the plague at all, didn't have to go to the other side.
Right.
But it does make that randomness does make it exciting because you're just waiting for, is it going to happen? Is it not going to happen? Of course, that's what it's like to be tanking all the time.
So you're saying I should take up tanking?
Hey, if you want more excitement,
No, I enjoy range.
miss taunt, wipe the raid. Yeah, good times.
You have to have broad shoulders to be a tank. So,
Yes, feminine shoulders. Yeah, I just saw one of them today. Definitely broad shoulders.
So speaking of tanks, so our lovely artist Donna Bell, I don't know if I mentioned this to you guys, Durag, our main tank. It was his birthday it was on the 20th, but we had Donna Bell draw his character tune, and she finally got it to us, and we blew it up in poster size and then framed it and everything. And if you fans want to see it and see the wonderful job she did, it's on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Lions Pride Tavern. You'll be able to see the picture there, plus the picture of Durag holding it. She did a great job. We actually had a fan shoot us a tweet saying, great episode last week. I think the music intros that we have now, the music intros you guys do for everyone are awesome. So he's really liking Charm's music there, which I have to agree. And says, hope you guys will be able to get Gul'dan down. That was pretty cool. And that was from Meech. He tweeted me that direct, and I asked him if I could make that comment on the air because I thought that was great. And then Digital One, which is where I was going with this, Digital One on the YouTube page made a comment down below our version of the podcast, because you can watch Donna Bell draw the picture. He was totally amazed at her drawing. So, and he made comment to that too. So thanks, Digital One. He's one of my fans for my YouTube page. But Meech is one of our fans from the Lions Pride Tavern. He listens to us, I'm assuming, every week. But actually, I think he came from the Goblin Goldcast because I hadn't seen his name before. But I could be wrong. But hopefully, if not, he'll go over there and befriend Mac and Dex and listen to their podcast. So
Nice. Hey, did I
Yeah.
tell you that we actually took Donna Bell out for sushi after she did the same thing for Bronzebeard?
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
So you're saying
that-
I should send her some fish?
yeah, that's throw a slab of fish her way, or clams, whatever it is that's gonna help the struggling artist keep at it. But no, I'm sure she'd be totally down doing more art for people who want something like this for their tunes, customized stuff.
Absolutely.
Mission work for sure. I'm sure she'd be happy to.
Yep, and I actually talked to her about that. So if anybody would like their tune drawn by her, she's happy to do it. She does charge a fee, so you guys can negotiate that directly with her. but you can get a hold of her through the Facebook page. She gets, if you go to where it says email, you can email it because it goes to both her and I. She's the co-founder of the page. So she gets all the emails, so you can get in contact with her directly if you'd like your picture done. And you'll, like I said, you can take a look at what Durag got his done. Now he didn't know it was coming. That was something that my wife and I picked out for him. But he said he kind of thought so when his mom asked him, "Now, which weapon do you like the best?"
Ah.
Did turn out great.
Yes, it really did. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the changes that we got with this last patch on Tuesday, 7.25. Made a few changes. Did you guys notice anything DPS tanking wise? I can't ask for the healer, but I mean, did you guys notice a lot of change in your tunes or not? Are you liking some of the changes? I mean, whatever you want to talk about. JoBui?
Well, the first thing that I noticed right away, which I thought was great, is that they raised the item level of crafted gear with Obliterum to item level 900, which that was a fantastic move. Not only does it make crafted gear a great way to get a tune ready for raiding in the tomb, but it gave me the ability to craft some pieces for myself and boost them up to level 900 to replace some pieces that I just hadn't gotten a good drop for, and to balance out my stats just how I wanted them. And I thought that was a super, super nice addition. Before they had been going up like 10 item levels or something, but this time they took it up 25 item levels up to 900, and I thought that was a really good move. They did nerf, sort of nerf some stuff in Frost Mage. They changed some stuff about how our Icy Veins worked, and I didn't really feel that was a necessary change, but I guess they did. But in general, it didn't feel like I got ruined or anything like that. It just a little bit different in how I play. I don't rely on some of the techniques I was doing before. They took away our double ice lancing. So in general, I felt it was a pretty decent patch. It didn't affect my gameplay too badly, and I was able to boost up my item level and balance my stats out how I wanted. So all in all, I kind of like it.
Yeah, no, I just to make a quick mention. So when the changes to the crafted gear were made, I was listening to the Goblin Goldcast, and they said Obliterum is going to take a huge jump. So, and it has. I don't know if you guys watch it, but since I've gotten Trade Skill Master, I've been watching it. I haven't been selling my Obliterum because we need it for the guild, for certain people that have the crafted gear and such. But man, they're making a killing off that Obliterum.
I bet.
And it's easier to make, I would say, because what I noticed was various pieces of gear, when I obliterate them, are giving me more ashes than they were giving me previously. So I was able to make a lot. I made all of my own Obliterum on this one just because I was trying to get particular stat balancing. Because like when you create a piece of crafted gear, it comes out with a random set of stats. And it's usually 2 stats. Sometimes it's just 1 as far as secondary. So you'll get a little bit of crit and haste, or you'll get, sometimes it's balanced exactly where you'll get equal amounts of the 2 stats, and sometimes one is a little bit more than the other. Sometimes it's all just 1 stat, like I was saying. And so I kept crafting the gear to get the exact stats I wanted and in the right balance that I wanted. And then I just obliterated the ones that were duds that didn't turn out how I wanted. And so then I had plenty of Obliterum for upgrading the gear that I wanted to upgrade, which was nice.
Lorelei, 725, you got any thoughts?
Yeah, I do like what they did with the Obliterum and just keeping your crafted items viable and something that you just didn't put away, because I hadn't been using mine for a long time. I just gave up on it. It wasn't worth it. They didn't really take the nerf bat to warriors this time like they usually do, so I'm pretty happy about that. I finished my class mount quest, which I enjoyed that. I had a little rocky bit because there was a one quest in the Breaching the Tomb achievement that I could not get, and I just apparently there was something I hadn't quite finished yet, and so that finally showed up. Um, I just don't like the warrior class hall mount. I'm sorry, Blizzard, but by the time you got to the W's, you really just kind of ran out of ideas. I mean, it's gray. It's a big, stupid gray floppy dragon, and I just wanted something epic. And I don't know, I think they just could have, they came up with some really interesting ideas, and then I think they just ran out when they got to the bottom of the alphabetical list. So
I
it's
don't
not
know.
something I'm going to pull out and use. It's not even going to be on my favorite list. It's just going to be in there.
I don't know. According to Tapachino,
Ugh.
that she's. I think she's
She
got you
should
beat
be
with
here to
frustration.
comment on that.
I know she does, and I wish they'd quit poking her about that because she's getting so mad. But mine was just I just wanted something more warrior-like, and they just rehashed something that's been in the game forever. And
What did you get exactly? What can you
it's
describe
a
it a little?
worm. It's one of those because it doesn't fly. It just looks like it's flopping around on the ground.
Wait a minute, it's a non-flying mount?
Well, maybe it is flying. I don't know. I just really kind of looked at it and went, you're going back in the list. I'm not even
Yeah.
my favorite thing. I wrote on it once inside my class hall and said, okay, I'm done with that. It's like in
Like a Pandarian worm?
what was I'm drawing a complete blank on everything today.
You must be on
Northrend,
vacation.
over in the middle where Ice Crown is, you've got those big blue worms with the Viking type guys.
Oh, that are running around down on the flats
they
down
kind
there?
of run on their feet, and their
Yep.
wings just flop
they're-
on the ground. It's that, except it's gray. It's gray.
Inspiring.
It's got a, but it looks like a weapon vendor mount, because on the back of it, you've got like 10 weapons in backpacks sticking out of backpacks or
Oh.
it just looks stupid.
I just looked it up
It's stupid.
to take a look at it.
It's ugly and stupid.
I've never liked those mounts.
I never have, because they run like they're just like, oh, I'm everything on me is broken, and I just wanted something epic,
Yeah, warrior-ish.
a warrior. We needed, even if they'd given us the paladin one. I love the paladin warhorse. I mean, it's a warhorse.
I'll trade you.
They could have come up with something a little bit more creative, but that looks pretty epic.
I don't know. I mean,
I'm not
Mages
impressed
was a
with
little
it.
lackluster too. I mean, we got
yes.
discs with just.
It looks like a fidget spinner, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I hate those things.
It does.
As
It
a
is a
teacher,
fidget
I'm going to
spinner.
say I hate those things along with the slime. Those are two little trends I cannot stand. Yeah, there's another thing my mage will not be using is the fidget spinner.
I've been using mine because I like a minimalist mount that is just, more or less my character flying around. I would have been happy if they'd have given mages just the ability to cast it, where it would look like they casted like a flight spell on themselves and they just were flying around. I would have been perfectly fine with that. No mount at all. Just make it look like I'm flying around. That would have been cool. But we got the fiery one, which the fiery one I think looks the best of the 3 mage mounts, but it's still not that great,
No,
But yeah.
I agree. The mage one was not good either.
All right, Epistle 725.
Well, people are saying they enjoy the Pally mount, but I'm kind of meh about it. I enjoyed the question to get it. And of course, when the patch came out, I, of course, opened the patch notes with fear and trepidation, thinking, okay, how much are they messing with rotation or mitigation or anything like that? I looked at it and went, oh, okay, good. It's pretty much stay the course. And so that was a bit of a relief for me. Otherwise, it was pretty much not much of a patch, except I am a Chromie fan, and I've been playing around with the scenario and enjoying that immensely. I love that you get to go back to old content and have a twisted time adventure that's kind of warped and offbeat and not using your typical kind of literal sequence of events time after time. It's more kind of timey-wimey and wibbly-wobbly and all that, and quite enjoyable.
I haven't done the Chromie yet.
I haven't
I've
finished
it's fun.
it. Yeah.
I haven't even started it, but I've seen a lot of people playing it.
Not knowing what to do with it, so I kind of ran around and I used up my 15 minutes trying to figure out what to do, and then I said, "Let me look at a guide." Oh, look, I'm doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
So I'll get back to you, Chromie.
Well, I looked at the map and thought, oh, look, there's the little gold circle. Like, maybe I should go there?
I did.
And
I didn't
it
know
all
what to
worked
do
out.
once I got there, and I'm just like, I just kept running around killing things that I really wasn't supposed to kill.
Right, until you find the person you're supposed to talk to, and
Yeah, and I didn't find them, so she died.
Whoops. Yeah, they sort of changed it around. None of this sort of exclamation point question mark to let you know where you're going. That keeping you on your toes, I guess.
One thing that is not exactly 725, but it came just before 725 was the change that they made to artifact knowledge of maxing it out at 40 and giving this the ability to pass on a token worth 40 artifact knowledge to our alts. I'm of two minds on that particular change. One, I love that we can pass that 40 off to our alts. That's great because it has made it so that I can get my alts up to a reasonable level on their artifact power very, very quickly. In fact, if you give them the 40 and you go do the Suramar quest line right afterwards, I know that Fafford is not a big fan of the Suramar quest line, but if you do the Suramar quest line, it gives a ton of artifact power, and you can get concordance very, very quickly with a new alt just by doing the Suramar quest line with your alt after it hits 110. But I don't like that it maxes out at 40 because, when I'm staring down the barrel of 1.9 billion artifact power for my next rank up on my weapon, I stop caring about getting artifact power because it's just, I'm not getting enough to reach that point. And when I look at like what it takes to get 50, when you're talking about, tens of trillions to get max on your artifact weapon, I'm like, all right, well, I'll just get artifact power as it happens now, rather than me going to do it.
Yeah, it feels like they put it way out of reach.
Yeah, it's so far out of reach that I just have no drive to even try. And I felt that was a bit of a mistake. And if you think about it, if they'd have left it at 50, which is where it was supposed to go originally, or where it was going to go originally, then I would have ended up being able to hand off tokens worth 45 artifact knowledge to my alts, and it would have made that even easier for my alts in what, 10 days more? Or no, I guess it would have been more than that because it was 5 days per artifact knowledge. But it, a while longer, and I would have been much, much further along, and I think I would have liked it a lot better.
So speculating, but do you think they're actually putting that back just to sort of, I don't know, buffer against Tomb coming out and wanting not to have too many tunes overpowered going in there?
I don't know. Blizzard's official excuse for limiting it to 40 was that they said that they were trying to cut back on the grind of getting artifact knowledge, but for like new tunes, I guess, so they could catch up or something. But the thing about it is it wasn't a grind. I would turn, like every 5 days, I would grab a token and upgrade it a little bit. It wasn't something I had to do all the time. It wasn't difficult or taxing or time-wise or effort-wise. It was just something I did every 5 days, and I didn't really think about it much other than, oh, I got a new one. I get to upgrade that. And so that doesn't really play well with me as far as like we're lessening this grind for that, but we're making your grind to increasing your actual power exponentially longer.
Stealing from Peter to pay Paul, and then it just It takes forever, and they can build a catch-up mechanic if they wanted to
Yeah.
for artifact knowledge. That's not like they've never done that before.
Yeah, and in fact, that's the way it works currently. Is if you start a new tune, then you have like a number of them that you can just train up right away, and then the number of the amount of time it takes to train up the next level is much shorter if you're just starting up a new tune. So it just felt like an artificial, like we're going to create a grind that is so long that there may be only one or two WoW players that actually even want to do it anymore.
Well, all I know is that when you throw down an 84% chance on a 3-day long quest and you fail it for 125 million artifact power, you just don't want to do it again.
Oh man.
I tell you, those 3 days, I got to stop doing them. This is the third one in a row, and I'm not kidding here. The third one in a row, I've been above 80%. 3 days later, it kicks over, fail. Oh.
See, I only do them if they're 100.
Yeah,
And-
I don't do
I
anything
normally do, but
unless it's like I've got one more left and I don't care. There's one little follower. I'll just stick them in there at a 70 and know that it's gonna fail.
but you got to have all the bonuses in order to get to that 100%, just to get your guys to get that. The closest I could get was 84%. Because not all my guys have got their third piece yet. And
they're not all.
Yeah, they're not all maxed out yet. So
I get the 100, but it's at the same time there's no bonus for it, so I just get to 100%. Now the downside for me is I've had them show up, and you WoW players, be aware of this, especially if you're a mage. I have Millhouse Manastorm, and he will increase the time it takes by double for any mission that he puts out. I've seen the time that it would take to turn one of those over be 12 plus days. And I was like,
ouch.
oh, I'm so glad I noticed that before I sent him off to go do it, because he would have been gone for like half a month on that mission.
See, that's why I keep him as a companion, so I can keep him where I can see him. I just
Yeah,
do
right?
not trust that guy.
Yeah, he's my follower. He's the one that runs around with me outside. So, unfortunately, we got to move on. So, cue the music. It's time for Lorelei's Pet Battle Minute.
Hello. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about the Dead Mines Pet Battle. This opened up with the latest patch, and there's some changes from the Wailing Caverns Pet Battle. But first you'll need to have completed the Wailing Caverns Pet Battle dungeon on normal to get an invitation from our favorite pet vendor Brianni in Dalaran. Bosses no longer have a backline team, and that's good news. You'll need about 15 to 25 max level pets for this one. I'm not going to go into detail about every fight this week, but I'll just give you a rundown on a couple of them and what kind of pets you'll need to have ready. This pet dungeon only has 7 stages to it, and you will need an array of pet families. You'll need a lot of mechanical, undead, critters, beasts, and a few flying and magic to get through. The toughest fight is the stage 4 fight, which is Olaf Runt. And you'll need to watch his cooldown, so I recommend that you use the Pet Tracker add-on. This will give you a countdown for his attacks, and you'll need to time them just right to avoid his heal and stun combo attack. Stage 1 is a boss, and it is Junk Reaper 500. If you go in with a Fell Flame with Burn, Scorched Earth, and Conflagrate, or a similar elemental pet with elemental damage, you'll be able to take down this boss with just 1 pet. Stage 2 is a Trash Mob, and you will need 2 critter pets with the Darkness attack. You can use the Blind Rat, the Frost Fur Rat, or any of the crows. Follow up with a hard-hitting backline pet, and you'll be good to go. And I'll give you more detailed rundown of that next week. And if you're doing the challenge mode, you'll be earning things called old bottle caps, and you can use those for buying new battle pets. So run that every week, get your bottle caps building up, and you'll be able to get a couple of nice new pets. And that'll be it for this week.
All right. And then there's
Getting Thieves with Jobui.
With the new Tomb of Sargeras raid opening up, I think now is a great time to talk about one of the most important aspects to getting good DPS: having fun. Yes, most of us like to see our name at the top of the list in the DPS meters, but having fun should be the most important thing when it comes to playing a DPS character. Just about any class and spec is capable of producing decent numbers. Blizzard is constantly tweaking how powerful each class and spec is in a process they like to call class balancing. Unfortunately, more often than not, this leads to class imbalancing, and what some people call the flavor of the month class and spec. When that happens, many players feel they need to switch to that flavor of the month class and spec because it's currently, by the numbers, the most powerful one to play. Switching it up might work for you, and there's nothing wrong with doing that, but if you're really not enjoying that class or spec you switch to, it really isn't worth it. The reason I say that is more often than not, I see players who really love a class and spec get great DPS from it even if they don't top the chart. In fact, I've seen players switch to a class or spec that they don't enjoy at all because they feel like they have to in order to contribute to their raid team. And maybe their DPS does go up a little, and maybe they do move up the chart some. But is that little bit of extra DPS really worth playing a class or spec that they don't enjoy playing? I don't think so. If there is a class and spec that you particularly enjoy, play it. Work out the nuances of that class and spec. Have fun with it. Remember, this is a game, and the point of it is to have fun. So play that class and spec you love, and keep getting those deeps.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Joe Bowie. That's why my mage is still arcane. And then there's epistles music.
What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking? What's wrong with tanking in a dress?
Today at Come At Me a Tanking Minute, the next step. A few years ago, my wife talked me into doing something that was not entirely in my comfort zone. She talked me into taking some ballroom dancing classes. Now, it was a lot of fun, but it was a little strange. We learned salsa, we learned tango, rumba, lots of other things, and I was kind of okay with it, and that was fun. But subtlety, style, yeah, I wasn't getting to those. For the first part, I was just learning where I'm supposed to step, how the dance works, and knowing what was coming next. It's intimidating when you're being a guy and you're expected to lead the next step. It means that you've got to kind of figure out where the music's going and when you put which foot forward, and knowing that everyone else is going to kind of step in line and go with you on that one. Well, the scary part especially was not when you're in a pattern that you knew, but when the pattern ended and a new thing had to begin, or there was some sort of transition. And then the anxiety of, uh-oh, wait a minute, what was the next step? Well, last week during our heroic Gul'dan fight, I had one of those moments. What do I do next? What's the next step? We had had a little bit of a strat change and realigned how we're going to handle it, and the reason why made total sense to me. But I had that moment just beyond phase 2 when I didn't know what was my next step. It was a bit awkward because everyone really had to run in one direction at that point, and I wasn't sure where I was supposed to go. So I fell back on my old DPS skills, which was look around and see where everyone else is running. Or more specifically, I was relying on Darek to know where we were going. So I turned to look at him, and he had that 1 or 2 second tune hesitation where I think he was probably doing exactly the same thing. And then, of course, my sense of tank calm quickly dissipated. But then I looked and saw a couple people were running in one direction, and I started moving. But that moment of not knowing what's next, I just hate that feeling of not knowing what the next step is and what the next step you need to take is going to be. And when you're tanking, you always have to know that. Now, we were fortunate. We had people who were able to call it out, and we got back on track really quickly. But that kind of moment of not knowing the next step can get that whole dance falling apart. So as a tank, you've got to be comfortable knowing that sometimes you got to be stepping out, and you got to be comfortable, and you got to be confident in knowing what that next step is going to be. Which tells me anyone who's going to be raiding next week in Tomb of Sargeras needs to be doing a little bit of background, maybe not know all the subtleties and all the style that goes into the fight yet, but at least know what your next step is going to be in the first few fights. And that's Come At Me a Tanking Minute.
I mean, that's good advice right there. So, you listeners that are starting their new raid with Tomb Sargeras, I know a lot of the websites already have their videos up from, the pre-release of Tomb of Sargeras, so you can kind of see what's going to happen. They're not always etched in stone, so, take it with a grain of salt, flow with it, but go take a look. If you haven't yet, now's the time to do it. Because Tuesday, Tomb of Sargeras comes out. Speaking of that, let's go to WFN News, Warcraft, Fafford News. The Mage Tower building is up next at the Broken Shores. It has fell treasures and power overwhelming. The weekly quest is the Battleground bonus event. Yay for PvP. WoW tokens are not too bad. Last week they were 130. This week, 125 in the States. And the biggest news of all, Tuesday, like I said, the Tomb of Sargeras. Now, I have heard that pronounced the Tomb of Sargeras, but I think that's a tomato thing. Anyway, live on Tuesday with normal and heroic. The next week will be the probably LFR and mythics. Midsummer Fire Festival also starts Wednesday. Get out there and get that fire gear. It looks great. Well, guys, we definitely got our hour in that time, so hopefully Donna Bell will be able to fill this time slot with her lovely her lovely picture. Everybody who's out there, go ahead.
Did you know in Canada we actually say at tomato?
No, you don't.
I was just going.
I'll had to stop and think about that.
Yeah,
for a minute.
yeah.
What?
Thanks, guys, for coming. Thanks, fans, for listening. Don't forget, our music was supplied by Charm. She's a beautiful voice. Go check out her websites. Everything will be in the description of where you can hear her other music. She does all sorts of memes on WoW. Some of them are just absolutely hilarious. I've still got to get that one to you, JoeBuoy, about playing with fire. It's all about a fire mage. It's absolutely great. So anyway, thanks everybody for coming. We'll see you next week.
See you
Okay,
next
so-
week.
See you, folks.
We're gonna do a hero wig. 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 Wanna roll with us with our hearts and dots and wreaking out havoc all around the boss? And wanna come with us if you want to rush and breaking through these mobs and kicking up dust? You can come along with your PvP gear. It don't matter 'cause it's real easy here. All you gotta do is nuke some shit, nuke some shit, nuke some shit. Hitting, critting, deeps in healing. This HC's like fun, server leveling. Got no time for your QQ rambling. Can't interrupt, you should re-roll all of them. Are you ready now? 'Cause we're good to go. I think you understand how it's gonna go. All you gotta do is nuke some shit, nuke some shit, nuke some shit. We're gonna do a hero wig. We're gonna do a hero wig. We're gonna do a hero wig.
If you like this podcast, throw us a like and subscribe to our channel. And please, leave comments or questions below. Maybe we'll answer them on the air next podcast. We are hosted on Podomatic.com. Our website is lionspridetavern.podomatic.com. Our podcast also airs on iTunes for Apple users, Google Play for Androids, and YouTube. Just search World of Warcraft Lions Pride Tavern podcast. See you next week, and thanks for listening.